Jordan Belfort, better known as the Wolf of Wall Street, played by Leonardo DiCaprio here, is a master at sales. In fact, it might be the thing that he is the best in the world at. He says that he's the world's best sales trainer, period. So in this video, I'm going through a whole bunch of his trainings and putting it all into this one quick video for you to skim over with all the principles laid out in this incredibly simple Miro board, because everything is formalized just like Alex Hormozi. So that's the good news. Now, today, what you will learn is how to set frame, how to take control of any conversation, how to use tonality in body language, which he is so good at. It's scary. And then how to face objections and reply to them. And then finally, how to build certainty and close like a pro. So make sure you watch all the way until the end. So first, the frame. Now, success in sales starts inside you. Like, it's not a tactic and it's not words that you can say. And I heard the saying once and I thought it was fantastic. It's not the words, it's the music. So it's the stuff behind the words, the inner game, basically, your state that will dictate your results. Because if you are in a state of absolute certainty that your prospect will get fantastic results with your product or service, if you are in a state of absolute certainty that what you have to offer is the best thing for them, then you will win, period, full stop. There's no technique I can give you. And Jordan talks about how to get into this state of absolute certainty. And I'm just looking around to see if I have... Okay, I have this inhaler here next to my desk, where I keep all of my little goodies. And every time I close a massive deal or I have a sales call where I just rock it, I take this inhaler, which is like a herbal inhaler, and I inhale it, right? It's just, herbs and like eucalyptus and some other stuff, but it's got a very distinct smell. And what you do in your brain is that you train your brain to anchor the feeling of absolute certainty, because you're at the highest amount of absolute certainty as soon as you are authoritative, close a deal, you feel like you can fluff your feathers and you just, that sort of feeling when you're like, yeah, man, this is going to crush it. This client is amazing. I'm an incredible service provider or whatever. So every time you're in that state of absolute certainty, you anchor it to a specific smell. He suggests one of those little nose things that people use when they have the flu, and because smell is such a powerful, gives you such a powerful emotional response, it anchors the two feelings together. And then you can access that state without being in it emotionally, but you can trigger it with the smell. So I hope that makes sense. That is a crazy hack that I learned from reading The Way of the Wolf, which is Belfort's Way of the Wolf, which is this. Basically, what I've tried to do is summarize this book, summarize all of his trainings into this one video here. And this is one of the most tactical things that was in this book. There's tonality and body language and states, but actually that trick of changing your state with the smell is so powerful. I also have some fragrances, and I only wear those fragrances when I'm closing a big deal or I've closed a big deal, and I want to be in a particular state. So it's kind of like you're putting on not a mask, but you're putting on a persona. And so I'm putting on the sales closer extraordinaire hat when I put on that perfume or when I smell this particular thing. So really, really powerful. I know that's like 2.5 minutes of me just going on about it, but it's really important. So your state ultimately will control your results, right? So when you're at that peak state, try and anchor it to a smell. Smell is the most powerful sense that you can use to anchor it to. And when you're at that peak state, you're going to have these incredibly positive results. When you're in a poor state, it's going to be very difficult to sell, right? You're going to be tired, broke, insecure, and you're usually going to get negative results. So your internal world needs to be handled first before you go out and you try to express belief onto a prospect, or you try to basically the person with the highest level of belief and the most conviction and the most positive state will win. And if your prospect has a better frame than you will get controlled. You will get asked questions instead of being the one setting the frame and asking the questions, and it'll be a disaster. So think about it like this. Inner game is energy, like emotional state, mindset, confidence. Outer game is this tonality, body language, certainty building, closing, etc. And so emotion drives this action. So before you open your mouth, your energy sells. And then obviously just logic justifies it later. And that's something that Jordan Belfort taught me. And then he goes on about the first 4 seconds to like get instant control of the conversation. And obviously when you watch him do it, he's like a master at it. But he talks about the 3 perceptions. First, each prospect must identify you as, number 1, sharp as a tack. So you need to speak crisp, fast, and precise. No ums and ahs and, yeah, so... And I'm guilty of this. There's a lot of enthusiasm in my voice that is lacking, and I could certainly add more, which is the next part. You need to be enthusiastic as hell. And so if you listen to Tony Robbins speak, he's just like, I don't care what he's saying. The guy's just so enthusiastic. I want to listen, right? He's jumping up and down all over the place. The same as Jordan Belfort. Enthusiastic as hell. And, quick side note, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling is one of the best books that I have ever read on selling. And it's about an insurance salesman who, it's like such a disgusting title, but it's such a fantastic book. I might actually make a breakdown of it because that's how good it is. Like rule number 1 is be the most enthusiastic person in the world. Like it trumps all other things. Being enthusiastic and having an internal absolute certainty will just like forget everything else. Like stop watching this video. Just go out being enthusiastic as hell and believe in your product to like Hormozi says balls to bones that the product or service will give the prospect their dream outcome. Everything else is kind of like fluff, right? So this enthusiasm is a tonal energy that shows you love what you do. And then thirdly, the thing that people need to perceive you as, so first is you need to be sharp as a tack, you need to be enthusiastic as hell, and then lastly, you need to be an expert in your field. And so this calm confidence where you're able to give facts, there's no desperation. When people ask you questions, you don't and ah. And look, if you're an absolute beginner, I would suggest instead of trying to make stuff up, because lies are a terrible way to start your sales career, it's to say, that's a fantastic question, John. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my mentor that question. I'm going to get back to you as soon as possible. It's not the ideal situation. Obviously, you want to be able to have all the facts and answer all of the questions that he asks you, or ask him a different question. That's an interesting question, John. I'm curious, why you're asking that question? Like, what are you really concerned about? And try and flip it back on them, because most of the time people are just trying to see if you know your stuff or not. And so how you handle that is sort of, up to you, but you need to be perceived as an expert in your field. And so if there's a fact that somebody needs to know, you just need to know it. Like if they ask you a question about a thing and you aren't able to articulate the answer, people are going to see you. Like today, I bought a set of speakers, and I asked the guy a question about the speakers, and he goes, yeah, and I'm just saying, we're done. We are done. I don't believe anything that you're saying. I don't want to buy anything from you. And remember, your voice is your first impression. So open with a controlled, friendly tone and a body posture that is straight, chin up, and eyes focused. Simple stuff, really, but his whole book, The Way of the Wolf, was about tonality, which is crazy because it's a book. I listened to the audiobook, which I highly recommend, but it's about tonality and body language. And by the way, I'm just recommending out 100 different types of books today. This guy has some of the best books on body language that I've ever read. Just like if you can pick up anything by this guy, Alan Pease, he is absolutely fantastic. There's three book recommendations in 10 minutes. You're welcome. So tonality and body language, like I said, words are only about 10% of the persuasion. Tonality and body language is about 90%. And so the thing that will fix your sales rates the quickest and the most is getting conviction in the thing that you are selling. And so if you are not closing people, likely you are not convicted. You don't believe the things that you are saying, and subtle cues in your body language or your tone are communicating to your prospect that you don't know what's going on and you don't believe the stuff that you're doing. And so one of the things that this book taught me was the easiest way to tell who's going to sell the most insurance, which is a field that I used to be in, is to look at the person selling the insurance and see how much insurance they have. It was by far the highest predictor of success in being able to sell insurance, because if you don't believe in insurance, you don't purchase the insurance. But if you have thousands of dollars of premiums and your whole family is on this cover, and you have 2 life insurances and trauma cover and medical insurance, and you've got your whole car and everything, all of that is insured, and you try and sell somebody insurance and they say, oh, it's a scam, isn't it? And you're able to sit there with conviction and be like, this is the product that I use. This is the product that I recommend to my mother. Trust me. Like, you don't need to know the hyper detail facts about the policy. The conviction in your voice will fix everything. So there are 10 core tonalities. Number 1 is absolute certainty, and that is the single most powerful one. Then there's sincerity and caring. Then there is reasonableness, right? Everyone wants to be perceived as reasonable. Then there's curiosity, and oftentimes if people ask you silly questions or they say stupid things, the best way to handle it is with childlike curiosity. So somebody says, for example, oh, I've had 2 other agencies burn me before. And you go, huh, okay, tell me about that. I'd love to hear about it. Like, it's news to me. Or they say to you, oh, we ran cold email, we spent $20,000 on it, we didn't get a single lead. You go, really? Not a single lead? Wow, okay. Like, can you tell me about that campaign? How did it break down? What was exactly that was said when you reached out? How is it set up? Did you guys set it up, or was it the other people who set it up? Wow, really? I've never heard that before. All right, then there's scarcity and urgency. And then there's the money tone. And so you come down real low and deep, and you whisper confidence. Then there's the secret tone, which is a soft downturn at the end of a sentence. So saying something like, instead of saying, so John, I believe that this is the best product for you, and my tone comes up at the end, and it's like a question, and there's uncertainty in my voice, versus, John, I believe that this is the best product for you. It's subtle, but it's powerful. And then future pacing tone. So like communicating a dream, communicating a picturesque lifestyle, that like the heaven that they will experience, and trying to communicate the like the warm feelings that they will have at the end of this journey. And then there's the empathy tone, which is similar to the curiosity tone, but it's like, yeah, no, I understand. It sounds really tough, you know. I totally look, John. Honestly, if I was in your position, I probably feel the same way. And you can also call this the kind of the come to Jesus tone. I've heard a lot of sales trainers talk about, which is like, you know, you get real for a second and you go from up here and enthusiastic, like, which you should be most of the time, and then you go, look, John, can I just be honest with you? And you immediately go, okay, all that stuff, all that character and that persona, let's just put it to the side. Like, John, like, we've been talking here for the last 45 minutes and I'm not going to give up on you, all right? What is going to happen to your life if you don't fix this? Like, if I was talking to my best friend right now, this is what I would say. And then you sort of go down that tone, and like again, it's this come to Jesus moment where you go, listen, I am not going to give up on you. I love and I care about you so much that I'm not going to let you walk away without making this decision for you, because that's how much I care about you. And doing it with conviction, but with not using it in a sleazy way. Only doing it when it's genuine is really important. And then the takeaway tone. So people always want what they cannot have, and so often presenting something and then quickly taking it away is a tactic that has worked in the past. It's not a favorite of mine. And then this is really important as well. And I used to, not anymore, but I used to, keep a mirror next to my computer. And when I was on a call, I would, because it's very easy to like drop my voice and talk like this and go into a monotone, because, I'm not the most enthusiastic guy in the world. But if I force myself to smile, and honestly, I think one of the reasons I don't smile as much as I should is because I hated my teeth. I've just had my teeth fixed. So they're all my natural teeth now, but I considered veneers, but I'm glad I didn't get them. But they're all my natural teeth, and they're all straight and white and clean. And I noticed that I smile a lot more now. And so, like, close your eyes for a second and tell me if you can hear in my voice when I start smiling. And so I'm saying, hey, John, this is Jordan Belfort calling from the company that is going to do amazing things for you and all of the people at your company. And it's just like, I can hear it in my voice immediately. It clicks, and all of a sudden I want to listen to the person who's smiling. Nobody wants to be around a grumpy dude. Next, you need to adopt the doctor frame. You need to be the authority. You need to switch the frame from being the person who needs to answer questions and convince somebody else, and you need to be the person who asks questions and prescribes a solution to those problems. So a really good way of thinking about it is put your white lab coat on, put your stethoscope around your neck, and go and sit in your doctor's office. And then the prospect comes in and they have a problem. They are going to describe to you their symptoms. They are not a doctor. They are going to do their very best to articulate it in the limited range of vocabulary and context that they maybe have, because they have experienced this once and you've experienced it 1,000 times in multiple different ways across hundreds of different niches, across thousands of different clients. And they've just had this very limited experience. And most of the time, people are so unaware of what's going on that they don't even know how to articulate it. And so it's our job as salespeople, as marketers, to ask as many questions as we possibly can to identify the root cause based on the symptoms that they give us. Just like a doctor. Think about it like your doctor house, and you're trying to find the root cause through diagnosing this, like through understanding the symptoms and figuring all of that out. And so somebody will come to you and they will say stuff like, we've tried a whole bunch of agencies in the past and it didn't work, and I'm super skeptical. Look, Jordan, what I need is I need more leads. Like, I need more leads in the top of the funnel right now, because that's our biggest issue. And then I say, okay, interesting. Tell me more about that. Can you tell me about your sales process? Okay, so you're currently getting how many leads? Okay, they're getting, let's say, 10, 15 leads a week. Okay, and how many of them are converting? Well, there's like maybe one or two here and there. And I'm okay, so are you tracking the sales data? Well, no, not really, because there's so few leads coming in. I'm like, okay, so what is the current source of these leads? Oh, we have, SDRs, and they're doing outreach on LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, hang on. So the SDRs are doing outreach on LinkedIn and they're also closing. Yes. Okay. And so when all they do is close, what's their close rate? Oh, crazy high, like from inbound and stuff like that, like 60%. Okay. So why have you got them going and hunting for their own meal when what they're really good at is closing? And so how many hours a week might they be going out and looking for prospects? Oh, they probably spend most of their time doing that, because we don't have any inbound coming in. We don't have any engines set up. And I go, okay, interesting. So if we were able to put an engine into your business that you owned in perpetuity, and we were able to train your sales staff to close faster, better, and at higher rates, do you think that you would make more money? Well, yeah, of course we would. Okay, so then if we were just to flood your business with more leads, would that be the thing that you really think would fix your business? Well, maybe not. I think, and so you take them through these scenarios and you get them to sort of realize it themselves, but it's up to us to pull out all of the symptoms. And maybe this is not the perfect example, but that's kind of how it looks like. You need to adopt the doctor frame, right? So you ask the questions, the patient answers, that's control. And when they try and take frame control, you go and you ask another question, right? So the person who is asking the questions is the one who is in control. Remember that. Let me ask you a few questions to see if this makes sense. Is a great way to roll into a question. So if somebody says, why don't you, what is your offer? Tell me about what you offer. What do you do? And you go, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do that, John. Let me ask you a few questions to see if it even makes sense for you first, because just like a doctor would be sued for malpractice if he was to prescribe you a medicine without knowing exactly what your ailment was, I just need to ask you a couple of questions and understand your problems more deeply. Is that fair enough? Yeah. Okay. So, think about it like you're a doctor, and there's 100 other people out the door, and he's paying you for your time. And if he's not going to sit there and listen to you, next, find somebody else. Next is all about intelligence gathering. So it's about finding these emotional drivers. And you will know when you've picked on a pain point or a goal or a value. I have had people cry on the phone to me before. That's how powerful some of this stuff is. That's how much people desire change. And when you find that thing, it's difficult to explain, but you'll just know, and you'll be like, that's the thing. Let me dig. Everything else is irrelevant. Let me just dig into that. Let me twist the knife. And this is something that took me a long time to figure out. It's uncomfortable to talk about people's pain, but people only buy solutions to problems. And if they don't have a pain, and neither of you can articulate what the problem is, they will never buy from you. Simple. So your job is to dig through all the bollocks that they're going to give you, find the one thing that feels and looks and smells like it could be the main pain and the main goal and the main value, and then pick out the pain, and then twist the knife. And when I say that, what I mean is don't let them get away without feeling pain on the call. So before, I used to skim on the surface, and when I found the pain, I'm like, okay, that's the pain. I write that down, and I'll come back to that later. But the prospect sometimes doesn't understand that it's even a pain, right? Because this is the first time they maybe even said it out loud. And so a way that I really like to draw it out and make them not uncomfortable, but make them sit in the pain and be like, we're not going anywhere until you acknowledge how terrible this is, because I am here to solve this problem. So it's like, why haven't we solved this problem yet, John? We just said that not having a lead generation engine is stopping you from feeding your business, and you want to scale from $1 million right now to $3 million, and you cannot do that because you don't have the team, and you cannot raise the funds because you don't have an engine. And the investors have told you that they are holding off putting any more money into the business currently until you scale. But you can't scale without the right people, and you can't attract the right people without the investors' money. So you're in this gray area right now. And so why haven't we solved this problem? Because to me, it sounds like this is the number one problem that needs to be solved. Otherwise, the business is going straight to zero. Can you see that? Well, I guess if you put it like that, yeah. So, John, why haven't you solved this problem? You said you knew about this for the last 6 months. Why haven't you solved it? Oh, I've just been so busy, with work, and it's difficult, and this is not my wheelhouse. And you're like, okay, so you haven't solved this problem because it's not your main thing, but that's why you're speaking to me, right? But you can always hire other third parties. And so have you spoken to other third parties? What is the main reason why this is still something that is troubling you and you haven't fixed yet? And you see how I'm not letting him get away? And maybe I need to find a prospect that's happy with me recording a sales call and breaking it down for you, because it's very difficult for me to do both of the backwards and forwards, Anyway, you find the pain, you usually know what it is the instant you hear it, and then you let them sit in the pain, and then you twist the knife. So what's going to happen if we don't solve this? So what makes you think, if you do nothing after this call, that you are going to solve this problem 12 months from now? Because you have done absolutely nothing for the last 6 months. And what makes you think for the next 6 months it's going to be any different? Well, I don't know. We've got some other things going on, and probably it's going to be very similar. And we're blah 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 blah. Okay, and so do you think you're going to secure the funding that you need? Well, no. The investors have told us that they wouldn't do that. Okay, so if you don't secure the funding, and you don't grow, and you aren't able to hire the team, and you keep losing money every month, what's going to happen to the business, John? Oh, well, we'll probably have to wound down some things, fire some people. And so you're going to have to fire some people. And is that what you really want to do? You want to destroy these people's, maybe I wouldn't say that, but you get the point. Twist the knife. Don't let them get away. Most people will not tell you the main problem. You need to let them sit there and twist and twist and twist. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, finally. Fine. This is the real reason. Or this is, yeah, you're right. You know what, Jordan? You're right. Okay. That's exactly right. And you do that by asking them, what if, how would you feel? And you can do it both ways. So what if you were able to solve this problem, and we're able to come in and do all of this hard work for you, and we were to guarantee the results? What would happen to your business? What would happen to your life? How would your kids look at you? Do you think you'd finally be able to step away from the business and get more than 3 hours sleep a night? Do you think you'd finally be able to sit down with your wife and have a meal without checking your phone? And so organize your questions and ask them in that way. And so the emotional connection that people have to the outcomes, to the problems, to the solutions are the things that will ultimately drive action. You will not logic somebody into a decision. Usually, it's finding the emotional pieces and then being able to justify why your solution will solve those problems and backing it up with logic, because they're usually founders in B2B companies and they need to go to other people and present them the reason why they purchased your $10,000 thing, and they can't just say, "Oh, Jordan was mean to me and he made me cry." So they can't say that. So you need some logic, but people buy with emotion and back it up with logic. Now, the Wolf of Wall Street has this thing which he calls straight line selling. And so the straight line is open, rapport, qualify, present, close. Anything that deviates from those 5 pillars will get you lost in a whole bunch of gunk. And so you need to always be looping back. So if you lose rapport, don't move on and don't qualify until you get rapport back. If you cannot qualify, do not move on, right? And so you're constantly looping them back, trying to circle back and like get the rapport, qualify them properly, present fully, and then close. And then, right at the end, you can get all of these micro yeses. And so what I want to do, actually, this is just one philosophy, by the way. It's from one of the best, if not the best, in the world. And I think Hormozi is pretty darn good. And I have already broken down his sales stuff, but I might look to do the ultimate sales, combination. If I was to, a little bit of spice, sugar, everything nice, and mix it all together and to find like the perfect sales script or the perfect sales flow, what would that look like if I put together Hormozi and all these people? And I say that because Jordan is a big fan of getting micro yeses, and most sales trainers are, and I have found sometimes that's not the case. Because when people are forced into saying yes, they often feel like they are being trapped in a corner. And if you actually elicit a no, you'll often find that this pressure and tension will be released. And so instead of saying, "Does that sound like a good idea?" you can say, "Does that sound like a ridiculous idea?" And so you give them freedom to say no. Well, no, that doesn't sound like a ridiculous idea. And one of my favorite ways to start a conversation is, "Hey, John, Jordan here. Look, is now a bad time to talk?" No, it's not a bad time to talk, right? As opposed to, "Hey, John, it's Jordan here. Is now a good time to talk?" And there's so many questions he has. It's like, what does it mean, good time? How long is this going to be? Where is it? Like, look, is now a bad time to talk? No, it's not a bad time to talk. Okay, cool. Look, I'm just going to be quickly 5 minutes. And respect your time, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot more powerful. And this is from, here's another book recommendation called Never Split the Difference. And I'm definitely going to break this book down because it's one of the best books I've ever read on negotiating. And the guy who wrote it, Chris Voss, is an absolute, he is a G. He used to work for the FBI, I believe. He was the FBI negotiator. All right, so we move on to objections. These are just smoke screens. It's all peeling back layers of the onion to get to the core. So the reason people will give you objections is they don't want to lose face, they are uncertain, and they're confused. And it doesn't mean that they're rejecting you. It simply means that they don't understand, they're confused, or it's some kind of smoke screen and you haven't dug deep enough in the discovery phase. So stuff like too expensive just means that they don't see the value yet. Because if you're promising them to install a growth engine in their business, like we do with customers, with clients, that generates tens of thousands of dollars extra per month, and we charge a fraction of that, then if they believed it, they would immediately sign and they wouldn't ask questions. The reason that they think it's too expensive, or they need to speak to their wife or their business partner or whatever, I don't get these objections very often anymore, but maybe some of you guys do, it's because they are uncertain and they don't see the value, or you haven't uncovered the problem. So you loop back And this is sort of similar to the Hormozy loop, but it's like, yeah, I hear you. And then you rebuild certainty in the product or the company, and then you ask again with conviction. And there's another way that you can do this, which Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar talk about a lot, which is, I understand. If I was you, I'd feel the same way, and then explain to them why. And then why don't we do this? And then move them through to the next step. And so Jordan teaches, I hear you, rebuild certainty in the product or the company. So you can do it with stories. So yeah, totally understand what you're saying there, John. And if I was you, I'd feel the same way. And actually, when I started, there was a guy, Tony, who came into the company, and he had some similar objections to you. And what we found was that actually after we implemented these things, all of those problems completely disappeared because of X, Y, and Z. Can you see that? Yeah. So why don't we do this then, John? If we book the, if we come back to this here, and I say to you, if all things being equal, and if we could guarantee that this was not a problem, would you move forwards today? And you're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, okay, I guess. And okay, because so then that's probably the real objection, and then you've just solved it. All right, so the next step is lowering action threshold and future pacing, because everyone has a risk threshold before they buy. And so what I really like to do, and what I've been hammering recently, is worst case, best case. And so ultimately, the worst case scenario is that, you know, John thinks that I'm going to steal his money, I'm going to run away to somewhere that he can't find me, and he's going to feel like a stupid idiot in front of all of his friends and family and business partners, and he's going to lose money, and he's never going to be able to trust another agency owner again. That is like the main thing that they're worried about, that I'm going to destroy their business, reputation, and all those other things. And so what I like to do is paint the worst case and the best case. So in my case, what I would say is, okay, so John, after 90 days, which is our first agreement, and let's say the total contract is $15,000, right? So like we're doing it, depends, but you know, let's say $15,000 over 90 days. So our cost is $15,000, and over the next 90 days, what we guarantee is at least that $15,000 in banked revenue, as well as $100,000 in ongoing pipeline, and you will own all the assets, all the structures, all the templates, all the scripts, all the trainings, all the assets, and you will be significantly closer to your goal, or we work for free, right? So if you don't, so the absolute worst case is that you own all of that stuff that I just mentioned. You have all the SOPs, you have all the structures set up, you haven't had to lift a finger, and you have at least our fee completely covered. That is the worst case. The best case is that we take you from where you are now at $1 million ARR to $3 million ARR over the next, let's call it 12 months. And we set that up over the next 90 days, and we continue over the next 12 months to set that up. And so that's another $2 million in revenue over the next 12 to 18 months, let's call it. That's the best case. But the worst case, the absolute worst case, is that you cover your initial investment back and you own all of these assets in perpetuity, and you are significantly closer than where you are now to your goal. That's the worst case. And so Hormozy did this really, really well on the $100 Million Money Models webinar, if you go back and have a look. All right, coming towards the end here, we have the looping close sequence. So the product loop is reconfirm the product works and fits their exact needs. So you say stuff like, totally get that, John, but let me ask you, if this did exactly what I just described, would you feel it's worth it? And then there's the you loop. So you rebuild trust in you personally. I've been doing this for years, John, and my only goal is to make sure this delivers for you. And so you see this in The Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, Jordan Belfort or Leonardo DiCaprio comes into the new place and he goes, I don't ask my clients to judge me based on my winners. I only ask my clients to judge me based on my losers because there are so few. And so what I want to do for you today, John, is that I want to prove to you that there is a broker on Wall Street that actually gives a darn, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that rebuilds trust in you, the salesperson, personally. And then there's the company loop. So reinforce that they're in safe hands. We've helped hundreds of people just like you. We always over deliver. And so just layering on the social proof. And you can end with micro commitments. So like, listen, just give me 1% of your trust and I promise that I'll earn the rest of the 99%. Step by step, we'll do this together. But I cannot do that, John, unless you meet me here and you say yes today. And just give me 1% trust. Because like, what's the worst that can happen? And then again, this stuff. And then finally, drill, script, repeat. So the best salespeople, they don't just watch a video and go to a seminar and read a book and then now they're fantastic, savvy salespeople. They rehearse scripts until you can't get them wrong. They role play with other people every single day. Every single day. And so, look, if you want to take it to the next level, that's just kind of what you're going to have to do. Record yourself and train the tonality and body control and watch the game footage. And so that's how Jordan Belfort would teach you how to be an expert salesperson. This is all his stuff from decades and decades of selling and sales training and training different people across different industries and making what sounds like hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars. And whatever you say about the guy, the movie was fantastic. And he is an extremely charismatic, enthusiastic person who can definitely sell ice to an Eskimo. So we can always learn something from anybody that is better than us at something. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. This is 42 minutes long. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I try to add as much value as I could. It's 2 in the morning, and the last thing I wanted to do was make this video, but I brought it to you guys, and I was going to do a short, choppy one, but I thought, you know what? This is going to be a good one. I prepared this and put it out here. So if you enjoyed that, you don't even need to subscribe. It's 100% for free, but you don't need to subscribe. Just hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. Really appreciate you guys watching. I left another video on the screen that I think you're going to love. Check that out next, and I'll see you on the next one.